All right, so chapter 42, Mandy returned to the orphanage. Mrs. Bernal was very sad. This is chapter 43. Matron peeped in just as Mandy was waking up the next morning. So she literally slept the whole rest of the afternoon and then the next morning. When she saw that Mandy was stirring, she came into the room. "Good morning, Mandy. How do you feel today?" For a moment, Mandy couldn't remember where she was, and then she realized that she was back at the orphanage. She sat up in bed and she rubbed her eyes. "Goodness, is it morning?" she said. Matron pulled open the curtains and came to sit on the edge of her bed. "It is, and it's 10 o'clock, believe it or not. Sue has been up and about for ages and is waiting for you to come downstairs." Mandy thought about Bill and Anne and tried to imagine how she would get through the day without seeing them. Her insides ached from missing them so. Would she ever feel better? Would her sadness ever go away? Matron noticed that Mandy's eyes were swollen from so much crying, and she saw the tears that threatened to gather there again. "Mandy, Mr. and Mrs. Fitzgerald telephoned early this morning to find out how you were." "Oh, did they?" Mandy felt a warm feeling spread through her. "What did they say?" "They were most anxious about you. They were glad to know that you were still sleeping. They sent their love and wanted you to call them later if you felt like it. Otherwise, they said they'd phone again tonight." Mandy thought about this and wondered if she should return their call. One part of her wanted to so desperately, but on the other hand, she was reluctant to get in touch with the Fitzgerald. It would make her feel so sad to speak with them again. She was sure she would cry, and Mandy was beginning to be angry at all the emotions that seemed to turn her inside out and upside down. "I don't think I'll call them just yet," she said. "I mean, I've only just come back, and I want to see everybody and catch up on things, you know?" Matron seemed to understand, and she changed the subject. "Mandy, I don't want you to be too active today. Dr. Mathers told me that you still must get plenty of rest. You may get up and play for a while, but just don't overdo it." She leaned forward and gently brushed aside the hair on Mandy's forehead. "Everything will seem all right again in time, you'll see." Mandy bravely smiled. Matron was kind. She told herself that soon she would feel glad to be back with her friends again. In the meantime, she would find an excuse to avoid speaking to the Fitzgeralds when they called. It would be so much easier that way. She lay back on her pillows and prepared to face the long day ahead. Later in the week, Matron Briddy rang the Fitzgeralds at Cranton House. Anne picked up the receiver and spoke with some relief as she heard Matron's voice. "Oh, Mrs. Briddy, we've been trying to talk to Mandy for the last couple of days, but we don't seem to be able to reach her." "I know," she said. "That's why I'm calling. She's deliberately avoiding getting in touch with you. I really believe it's so painful for her that she just can't face it." "Oh, dear, that's so sad." Anne's voice echoed her feelings. She said, "We miss her so terribly." "Yes, and I know she misses you too. She's really having a bad time of it. She doesn't seem to have an interest in anything right now. She's very controlled. I almost wish she would break down. I think that would help her. She was questioning me the other day about her parents and how they died. That's something she hasn't done in a long time. I know she's quite desperate to create the feeling of a family about her." How can we help?" Anne asked. "Should we come to visit her?" "I don't think there's anything you can do at the moment, except to keep trying to telephone her. Even if she doesn't speak to you, it's important that she knows that you called, and she will settle down after a while." Anne related her conversation with Matron to Bill. He looked thoughtfully into the fire. It was a long time before he spoke. "It's too bad," he said. "It really is. Darn it, I miss that little girl." Anne sat beside him and put an arm around her shoulders. "Well, at least she had a wonderful Christmas, darling," Anne said. "Then that'll be something good for her to remember always." But Anne didn't sound very convinced at the thought of the sound of her own words. "I'm not sure if she isn't in more trouble because of her Christmas here. Before she came to stay with us, she knew nothing of our kind of warmth and love, and therefore she had no reason to miss it. But now—" He didn't complete the sentence, but Anne knew what he meant. She felt miserable. She wished there was a way of letting Mandy know how badly they missed her. And there's our little bunny. And for today, I want you to write about if you think Mandy should talk to Bill and Ann. So should Mandy talk to them and tell them how she's feeling? Or should Mandy just avoid them because it's too painful to her? So let me know, and I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 44.